Hello, everybody. Welcome to the award-winning RotoWire Fantasy Basketball Podcast. I'm Kirien Sprecher. That's Ken K-Train Kreitz.
All aboard.
We're brought to you by RotoWire's free trial at rotowire.com/pod and Edge Boost. Today is Monday, February 3rd. We had a couple of blockbuster trades over the weekend. We're going to break those down and see which players went up and which players went down. We'll also have some time for fan questions afterwards. So let's get started. Obviously, the biggest trade of the weekend, Mo Bamba goes to the Clippers. Oh, just kidding, everybody. I had the notes wrong.
Goes
there
to the Jazz. From Clippers to Jazz.
Yes, Jazz to the Clippers. Anyways, obviously, getting down to business here. We had on Saturday night, middle of the night. Some of us were sleeping. Some of us were at a rock concert. We'll have the viewers decide which was which. So anyway,
oddly older guy at concert, but yeah, go ahead. Yeah,
Dallas sends Luka Doncic to LA for Anthony Davis, Max Christie, and a 2029 first. Ken, what were your initial thoughts on this deal?
What the hell are you doing, Dallas? Those are my initial thoughts. Actually, like the rest of the country, I thought Sham's account was hacked. This couldn't possibly be true. This makes no sense. What I can't get out of my head is, okay, you think Luka is fat, lazy, and injury prone. So let's get a guy 6 years older who also has quite an injury history. 6 years older. 6 years older. I immediately looked up the ages because I was thinking 6 or 7 years. And I'm like, yeah, I thought maybe I'm aging AD prematurely, but just seemed insane. And then what little Dallas gets, once you're over the shock of really you're going to move your franchise guy. I mean, if you had a week ago, if you said, Kirien, predict a statue outside of a stadium, wouldn't Luka and Dallas be one of the statues you'd predict?
Yeah, easily number one for sure. Maybe Wemby a close second because we'll see where that goes.
Except, you'd assume that Wemby's retiring 3 or 4 years later, so by then they'd be done with the Luka statue. But yeah, insane. Just can't believe the little haul. I think clearly the Mavs overvalued secrecy here because it's insane to me that you don't make this a big public bidding war where so many teams have Trevor troves of picks to offer or talent and picks. Why, they just fell in love with keeping this secret, but you're going to get roasted by the fan base when the trade comes out. So what does the secrecy get you here? I don't understand it at all. I've seen some people write up, well, your secret so that you don't have leverage against you to have to make the deal. But I mean, so many teams would be lining up to get Luka. You'd get such a better package than this, right?
Yeah, I absolutely would agree. I'm not a GM, but I GM a lot of fantasy teams, right? Doesn't matter what sport. Whenever you get an offer or you're trying to request a trade, you're never just doing it with one person. You send it out to the league. You try to see if someone's dumber than the person you're trying to trade with right now, right?
Right. That's what the notes are for in the commissioner sites, to email everyone and post it on the board. And
exactly.
Who's going to give you the most for this guy? Yeah. It's infuriating. And I mean, obviously, Pelinka and Nico go back to the Kobe Nike days. But this is just insanity to me. And I hate, of course, as a Celtics fan, I hate how every star just seems to fall into the Lakers' lap. It's just infuriating.
Well, and just as a Celtics fan, you should be happy that they just keep going west, though, right? It seems
like better than
West
coming to Philadelphia or something. Yeah, exactly.
For sure.
Yeah, but, name any team and you can think of a package that's better that they would have given that's better than what the Lakers gave them. I mean, Utah, Lauri Markkanen, and the gazillion picks. Maybe Keontae George gets thrown in there too.
On the pod last Wednesday, I was talking about, all of these trade rumors, Vucevic, Zach LaVine, but, blah, 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 up and down the list. And at the top of every preferred destination, it's like, well, they're a perfect fit for the Lakers. And it's like, okay, but are they actually for the Lakers? We don't really know about that. And do the Lakers even have the assets to be willing to do that? And clearly they just traded for a player that has been a perennial MVP candidate already. So kind of a magnificent deal for the Lakers. I don't really know if it helps them in the short term. We'll see what the post LeBron era brings. Even Wendy said after this trade happened, all of the GMs, everybody around the league was like, okay, so what happens with Bron now? So we'll see what the domino effects are from that. So do we want to get started with the values? Which players are going?
Yes, let's get into the values. Every media company in the world is covering this trade, even ones not doing sports. So people don't need our thoughts maybe on LeBron and Luka, but let's talk fantasy and the lesser known players that are up and down. Kirien, why don't you start with which players' values go up because of this?
All right. I'll start with Jaxson Hayes. I mean, look, his value has and will go up, especially if things remain the same. However, I just don't really think the Lakers are done making moves. I would expect Jonas Valanciunas, Nikola Vucevic, Mitchell Robinson, or even, the Time Lord, Robert Williams, to be in purple and gold soon. If any of those four get added by the Lakers, Hayes' value will probably still be higher than it was when AD was still a Laker, but it probably won't go up to where like everybody has to clamor. Must add Jaxson Hayes, must add Jaxson Hayes. Then, I go to like Dalton, Knecht, Gabe, Vincent, right? With Luka out right now, Austin Reaves shifts to point guard.
Well, let me just back up to Hayes.
All right, go ahead.
As of now, to your point, he's the only center on the team, right? Like, so you could even argue. I mean, LeBron plays power forward, but the only big on the team, he has to get minutes, and we'll just see what trades get made. I added Hayes in a few places just to see if he's going to be the only center. He could be a double, couple blocks guy, steady playing. He's never had a steady playing gig, so it'd be interesting to see. But yeah, take us to guards in LA.
Yeah, I mean, I think Jaxson Hayes, someone's going to have to play defense in LA, right? So even if they trade for Vucevic or Valanciunas, Hayes has some value as one of the only good defenders.
Protect the rim, exactly.
Yeah. So, then, like I was saying, Luka's out right now. He may come back at the end of this week. We don't really have a timeline yet. But Reaves is going to be starting at point guard until that happens. So then there's an opening at shooting guard, and you could go to Dalton, Knecht. You could go to Gabe, Vincent. I'm not really sure which one is better, right? We just talked about the defensive efficiencies. A lineup of, Reaves, Dalton, Knecht, and LeBron is going to have huge holes all over the court on the defensive side. Obviously, the offensive side, they'll be just fine. And then you have Gabe Vincent. Like, he's had some, sporadic performances where you're like, oh, look at this. But his injury history, it's just really hard to trust him in value. So I don't really see Dalton, Knecht, or Gabe Vincent having a huge boost long term, but for this next couple games, this next week, I think there is some short-term value there.
Yeah. You are intrigued by a certain small forward who recently returned to the Lakers.
Yes. All right. So, sadly, I don't think there's going to be too much value to be had. This was a blockbuster trade. It changed the whole landscape of the NBA, but I don't really think it's going to have a huge impact on fantasy, sadly. I know the waiver wire warriors out there are going to be upset about that. If there is going to be a boost, I think it's going to be either Jared Vanderbilt or Dorian Finney-Smith, because those are like Hayes. Those are two of the Lakers' best defenders, right?
Yeah.
Vanderbilt has appeared in only 4 games this season. He missed the first half of the season. He hasn't played more than 16 minutes yet, so there's still a minute restriction. But in a week or two, when Luka's healthy and their offense is fine and they need a defensive spark, I could see Vanderbilt playing 25, 28 minutes per game. And when he has that type of role, he can get, handful of blocks, handful of steals, 10 rebounds, and he can deliver fantasy production. Dorian Finney-Smith is, similarly good defender. He just has not found the bottom of the basket since being traded to the Lakers. So that's kind of, a more of a dart throw. Like, you're just hoping that he starts to find his groove offensively, and then he keeps getting minutes because he's a good defender.
Now let's look at the other side of the coin here, Kirien. When you look at the Dallas guards, who now Max Christie is a member of, on the assumption that usage, who's the winner in your opinion if you have to pick one of the Dallas guards?
So this is probably a weak answer, but I'm just going to say Kyrie. Look, Luka's already missed so much time, and we've seen Grimes, we've seen Dinwiddie, we've seen Najee Marshall. They have their moments. If you're in a daily lineup league and you throw them in there every once in a while, maybe you get an explosion. You can live with a dud here and there. trusting these guys in week-long lineups, you get the 25 points and then you get the 4 points on 2 for 12 shooting, right? So it's tough. I think Kyrie.
Yeah, it's like they're not as good as Luka.
Yeah, yeah. Maybe he should have traded them for AD.
Yeah, it's and Max Christie. Actually, Christie's a fine get. Most NBA rosters would love to have him with his cheap contract and solid defense, but it also kind of clouds if anyone will really shine in the backcourt.
Yeah, absolutely. And you look at like Clay. I think Clay is just Clay at this point, but Christie, I like Christie more than I like Grimes and I like Dinwiddie. So I think those guys might take a hit. We'll see if Jason Kidd likes Christie as much as I do. Great defender, good shooter. I think he can find a role in Dallas for sure.
And maybe a little pressure in Dallas to show that these new acquisitions are going to play well. All right, well I'm going to go negative as the cranky old man. Which players' values go down? And the biggest name that popped, not a big name, but the first name that popped into my head is poor Daniel Gafford, who was playing lights out the last 2 weeks with the Derek Lively injury. I sadly cut Gafford in one league like 2 days before the Lively injury was announced. And Gafford just got all the minutes, has been on fire, a couple of 5+ block games, double rebound machine, was shooting like 80% from the field. Now, it sounds like they're going to have AD at power forward and Gafford at center. AD's value is so much higher playing center. AD doesn't shoot as well from outside like he used to. So I just don't believe that. I think we're going to see eventually PJ Washington at the 4 and AD at the 5. But yeah, those 3 or 4 amazing weeks, 2 or 3 amazing weeks from Daniel Gafford seem out the window. Do you agree with that, Kirien?
Yeah, I would have to agree with that. I think, obviously Nico said there's a strict, we have to play defense here. So I think they will experiment with AD at the 4 more often than not, at least for the first couple of weeks. But I still think if AD is playing the 4 and Gafford's playing the 5, AD is going to steal a couple of rebounds, Gafford isn't going to.
And every shot.
Yeah, exactly.
Exactly. All right, next I have Austin Reaves. And this is obviously on the assumption of when Luka's healthy. Reaves has had a ton of time with his hands on the ball, and those days are gone. And I'm not sure why Dallas didn't insist Reaves get thrown in on this. Speaking of all the ways that this could be a slightly better deal for the Mavs, why didn't they include Reaves? Because clearly that spot is now opening up, are covered by Luka's arrival. So Austin Reaves, great free throw percentage, but I gotta believe the ball's just not going to be his hand nearly as much.
Yeah, and like we've said, they can't have so many players that don't play defense on the floor at one time, right? So he's sharing the court with Luka and LeBron is probably going to be few and far between for Reaves. He'll probably be that guy that comes in at the end of quarters, that sort of thing, and leads the offense with the second unit.
Can't have 6 slow feet out there on defense. All right, then next, just Mav fans. What percentage of Maverick fans had Luka as their favorite player? 90, 80? Don't tell me people were jumping on the Kyrie bandwagon. I love the anger from Dallas. And, Nico, you make this trade secretly? You think you're avoiding some of the anger? Like, it's just ridiculous. But I apologize to the greater Mavs nation. Apparently, your karma is catching up with you for making it into the finals last year.
The only thing I have to add with this is how many parents spent, a paycheck on Luka Doncic Christmas
tickets, jerseys. Yeah. That Amex promotion about, what is it? Don't they have insurance on jerseys? But you have to buy them from the NBA site or something. Yeah, I wonder how many refunds Amex was handing out. But my goodness, sorry, Mavs fan. I mean, how do you get behind an AD and Kyrie team? Really?
Yeah,
we've seen AD as the number 1 face of a team, and it did not go well. Those Pelican days were ugly.
And that was 5 years ago when you still had those 20-year-old legs.
Right. I mean, you're going to make Kyrie the face of the team? Oh, boy. Yeah. So anyway, down, Maverick fans. And then I'll just end with, does Dallas trade Lively or Gafford now, right? Like, seems excessive to have the 3. I don't know what you're looking for. Maybe Lively's on a cheap rookie deal still, but it seems a little clogged in the middle. I guess maybe that gets answered by whether they really want him at the 4 or the 5. but it does seem like this is going to screw up. Lively seems to have the higher upside. Why you'd want to screw up his development by making him the second or third center is a little beyond me. So I feel like Gafford could get dealt before the deadline, but we shall see. What do you think, Kirien?
Yeah, so the Lively thing is interesting. He has so much upside last year. He was playing fantastic. His pairing with Luka was great. You know, the lobs in the playoffs were great. Every advanced stat said the Mavericks were a much better team when Lively was on the court. And then when they traded for Gafford last year, you saw the defense go up through the roof too, and which was kind of catapulted them into the finals. You know, the defense was a huge reason for that. So I don't think they want to trade Lively or Gafford, but like you said, like they're going to find out that even if AD wants to play the 4, he's better and more productive as a 5, you know? And so it's going to be weird. I don't think either of them, I don't think Lively or Gafford will be traded this year. But I think it's definitely a question to go back to in the offseason for sure.
Yeah. All right, well, let's move on to the other big trade of the weekend. 3-team deal that sends De'Aaron Fox to the Spurs. Sacramento receives Zach LaVine and 6 picks. By the way, it's really 2 first rounds in 5 seconds. One of those 3 first rounds becomes 2 seconds when Charlotte does not make the playoffs. And I think that's a pretty safe bet right now. The Hornets are going to be in lottery land. So it's really 2 firsts in 5 seconds. Still a better haul than a certain team in Texas got recently. And Chicago gets Zach Collins, Trey Jones, Kevin Red Velvet Herter, and a 2025 first rounder from the Spurs. Kirien, what were your initial reactions when you saw this trade on Sunday?
So my initial reaction when the Fox disgruntled news first came was, please go to the Spurs. Please go to the Spurs. So this is going to be so much fun. They're 2 unicorn defensive guys, right? Like their athleticism, their quickness, their ability to block shots, their, intuition defensively. It's just through the roofs. It's going to be so much fun. The offense we'll figure out what it looks like. But the defense is what I'm most excited for. All of the reporting says that Fox is going to sign this extension, right? With the Spurs.
I mean, that was his preference to go to San Antonio.
Yeah. So buckle up. It's going to be a fun couple of years. And the Spurs are out of the play-in tournament right now, but in a month, I think they're going to be right in the thick of things in the Western Conference. Onto the Sacramento side, they've traded away Tyrese Halliburton and De'Aaron Fox in the last 5 years. I don't really know what to think of that.
Find a team who's traded 2 better point guards.
It's hard. It's hard. I know, and everybody, whatever you want to say about Halliburton, he's a great point guard. Maybe he's not the Damian Lillard, Steph Curry win ISO ball, but he's a great point guard. I think a lot of teams would rather have him on their team than the current point guard. 2 years ago, the Kings were on the verge of knocking out the Warriors, right? We were lighting the beam. Everything was awesome. The Kings were finally back, and it's been all downhill since. I don't really think the Kings are a better team after this trade, but I've been wrong before, so we'll see. Yeah. As a Bulls fan, the LaVine side of things, I'm shocked that they found a partner. It seems like he's been in the on the block forever, and it seemed like the sentiment around the league was like, he's not a winning player. We're not going to give you anything for him. So we obviously the Bulls didn't get much for him, but at least he got moved, and the Bulls can kind of look towards the future now.
Who of these 3 guys they got, Zach Collins, Trey Jones, and Red Velvet, who do you think winds up having any kind of a career with the Bulls?
So long term, I would probably say Kevin Herter, Red Velvet is the most likely, just because that kind of style of a player can get bounced around, and you can have, a 10-year career as just being the 8th man, the sharpshooter off the bench. Short term, I'm looking at Zach Collins. If the Bulls move Vooch, Zach Collins could be the starting center for the Bulls during silly season of the fantasy basketball season.
He's ruining my Jaden Smith stashes that I have on a few plays.
I mean, people that pay attention to the Wednesday show with me and Mike Barner has been all about Jalen Smith the last couple of weeks. He said once Vooch gets traded, Jalen Smith is the guy. So I mean, Jalen Smith definitely is an option, but I think he just got hurt. Maybe it was just an illness recently. So I think
you could see Collins at the 4 too. It's not like Patrick Williams is a disaster there.
Yeah,
so.
the Bulls are currently starting Ayo Dosunmu at the 4 right now. So yeah, I think the 4 could be an option for
4's
sure.
available.
Yeah.
I'll tell you. Wow. So LaVine's having a great season this year, though. And, granted, I think, yes, there are rumors that he's just not a winner and is lackadaisical about defense. But the bigger concern was injuries, which he's proven this year. He seems to finally be healthy.
Yeah.
And the other knock was just poor shot selection, but he's career high field goals and threes this year, I think. So he seems like he's turned it around. I could actually see Zach LaVine kind of maturing into a sneaky, productive player on this Kings team. I could see DeMar DeRozan just shaking his head like, God damn it, I really thought I got rid of him. Now I've got to deal with LaVine again. But I could see him being sneaky productive. Bulls just didn't. To me, those are just 3 hard-to-move contracts that don't really expire when you want them to. And yeah, I agree with you that Herter probably has the best chance. They might deal Jones before the contract for the trade deadline expires. But let's shift into the up and down. And I was to say, hey, big winner here, the pick and roll per ESPN and Second Spectrum. De'Aaron Fox ranks 8th among 80 players with at least 500 attempts by shooting an effective 54% in pick and roll situations. So, boom, just to your point, the Fox-Wemby pick and roll is going to be amazing. And we'll see how LaVine and Sabonis do the same in Sacramento. I feel like you're the Bulls fan. My Bulls fandom days go back to the 90s in Jordan when I lived there, but I quickly bailed. Which Chicago guard's our winner here?
Yeah, I mean, Kobe White. Kobe White last year had his career high season, and Zach LaVine missed most of that. This year, Kobe's had some performances, some cold shooting. Zach has obviously been healthy, like you've mentioned that. So that kind of took away from his bluster this year. I think, Lonzo Ball still has those restrictions. He's been playing really well when he plays, but he still has those restrictions. And Josh Giddey is Josh Giddey, right? We know what he does, right? And that's not a knock against him. It kind of can be a compliment at some point. We can expect the type of Giddey production on a nightly basis. So I think Kobe White has the biggest upside. And then I think Ayo Dosunmu is just a relevant piece moving forward. I'm not going to say he's going to be a star. I think Kobe White could become a star, a top 60
Kobe
player.
White seems to have the most upside.
For sure. And then Ayo just becomes a guy that's going to play a lot. So I think Kobe White and Ayo Dosunmu. Going back to the LaVine thing real quick, you were saying he is having career highs. There are 4 players in the league that are averaging at least 24 points while shooting 50% from the field and 40% from 3. 3 of those players, Jokic, Kevin Durant, Karl Anthony Towns, and the 4th is Zach LaVine. So he's having
if somebody said to me, Ken, I'll make you a bet, $100. That's one of these years Zach LaVine is going to shoot over 50%. I'd be like, where do I sign? I'm in on that bet. I would have taken that bet in a heartbeat. And he's somehow there must be some odd maturation taking place with LaVine. I don't know. You watch more Bulls than I do.
Yeah, I mean, I could see it. I've always liked LaVine, but then when the Bulls have just been in purgatory, in purgatory forever. So I just wanted to shake things up. It wasn't as much as I hate LaVine. It was just we need to try something different because we're just
multiple injuries. Multiple injuries also have a way of making someone mature, or appreciate what they have. I don't think he appreciated what he had in Minnesota. That's for sure. All right, well, Kirien, tell us, and then we're going to hear from our sponsors, then get to fan questions. But first, Kirien, which players are down because of this deal?
All right. So, I mean, right away, we're just looking at Chris Paul. He's probably going to move to the bench. I don't think he's been playing 29 minutes per game, 30 minutes per game. I think that probably goes down to 24, 25. That's a tough hit in fantasy. And then I also look at Devin Vassell and Jeremy Sochan. Their usage is going to go down, so their value goes down. I still think they're going to play heavy minutes, but they're just not going to have the ball in their hands as much because it's going to be Fox and Wemby. And then we've talked a little bit about DeMar and LaVine being on the same team and how that'll work out, right?
Yeah.
I don't think DeMar or Malik Monk is going to defer to LaVine like they deferred to Fox, right? I think they probably think they're probably on a similar playing field, whereas Fox is probably the lead guy when he was there. So I think everyone in Sacramento probably takes a slight hit though, because it's just going to be spread out more. Obviously, aside from Sabonis, Sabonis is foolproof when it comes to fantasy. It doesn't matter who we could be on his team and he could get 20 points, 10 rebounds, and a couple of assists.
Right. He's still their only good big, right? So he's a lock. And then I think there are some of us taking flyers on Keon Ellis when we heard the Fox trade rumors.
Yeah.
Little bummed that he's staying in that bench role.
And then you got Devin Carter, to the rookie. So maybe they get some playing time. I think for the most part, why I'm so down on the Kings now is just because they're tied for the Warriors right now with 10th, 11th place. They're sitting at 500. They lose a couple games the next couple of weeks. In a month from now, they could be sitting in 12th place and not eyeing for the playoffs at all. And they could be in silly season, right? Then maybe you get the Keon Ellis.
I think, most clubs would do what you're saying. The Kings have had such little success that they're going to fight and claw. They're going to make Bulls-like moves to get that play-in spot, because their quantity of playoff success and the whole Mike Brown firing being ugly, that ownership you can't trust it. They don't think long-term. I don't see any silly season for them. I see them playing those guys to their knees bleed because they're going to be desperate to get the 12th spot.
I hadn't really thought about that. Was just kind of like a last second thing. I looked at the standings. So they could be in danger soon. So a yellow light for now.
They could be. They could be. All right, sir. Well, tell us about our good friends at Edge Boost.
All right. So have you ever had your debit card declined or had to call your bank at 3 a.m. in Vegas? Edge Boost is the first consumer-facing online bank dedicated to the gaming industry. There are numerous benefits to using Edge Boost. $250,000 per day in debt deposits, unlimited withdrawals, cashback on sports betting, DFS sweeps, 100% approval for all gaming activity, financial segmentation for discretion and responsible gaming, compatible today for prediction markets, iCasino, DFS, sports betting, lottery, brick and mortar casinos, horse racing, and sweeps, no transaction reviews or account freezes. Visit edgeboost.bet today and use promo code ROTOPOD. That's promo code ROTOPOD.
That is EdgeBoost. Edgeboost.bet today. Okay, Kirien, strap yourself in. I'm going to play host. You play expert. Let's go through some fan questions. I'll put them up on the screen. We're going to start with superfan Evelyn Gutierrez, who had the first question today. She asks, hold Klingon or pick up Achua? Precious Achua of the Knicks. Where do you lean?
So if you need value right now, Achua is probably the play. OG Anunoby's out. Josh Hart has been dealing with the injury. He got upgraded to probable. Long term, I like Klingon. I think Ayton might get moved. So I think Klingon has some value long term, but short term, Achua for sure.
All right. Evelyn apparently not worried about the trades this weekend.
Yeah.
Our good friend P-Dub is offered Mobley for Jordan Poole and Isaiah Hartenstein. This is intriguing because I don't know about Holmgren's latest health reports.
Yeah, I think he's out for until the All-Star break at least. And I think even when he comes back, I'm always the 2-for-1 guy. Like I'm going to take the two players here. If there's more value there, if one of those players is on your bench and you can upgrade one of them to have Mobley as your starter, if that makes sense, then you do it. But I think there's more value in having the two players, even if Poole. I don't think Poole's going to get benched towards the end of the season, fake injuries, whatever. I think Kuzma will get traded. I think Poole and Hartenstein will give you more value.
And as terrible as Poole's field goal percentages always are, free throw percentage is fantastic, and a career high 4.8 assists a game this year, which is shocking because I don't know who's scoring on those assists. But okay. Let's see. Next, thank you, P-Dub. Let's see. Okay. Felix Han. Hey, y'all. How do you feel about Nick Richards now? Feels very on-off. Also, thoughts on Lakers being favorites to land Miles Turner? Well, that's a whole bunch of questions there. Let's start with Nick Richards in Phoenix.
Yeah, so if you were paying attention to the whole show, Felix, you heard me say that any report you see is going to say that the Lakers are the number one target because the report is probably being written by some blogger that lives in LA. So yeah, I don't think Miles Turner is going to be a Laker.
Unlike RotoWire, which has a Midwest bias.
yes, very much so.
You never hear about the Midwest bias except for here at RotoWire. Yeah.
We're all yelling about stop putting Giannis in trade rumors. I think Nick you're 100% right. Nick Richards is going to be hot and cold, but you just kind of have to live with it. He's going to be the Suns starting center. Obviously, if you can get Miles Turner, try to get Miles Turner. He's a better player than Nick Richards, but Nick Richards, you're just going to have to live with the hot and cold and be happy when he gets to your 15 rebounds.
I feel like with Richards, the rebounds will always be there. No one else can rebound on this team, but it's just the points are going to be wildly erratic. Okay, some just general venting going on. James Shan says, Lakers may go for Capella or the lunch lady, cheaper than Miles. I think he's answering our friend Prue. That's not really a question, but Lakers get mentioned every trade rumor, so I don't know, what's the point of that? Devin Vassell, you touched on this a little earlier, Kirien, but what do you view as his rest of season value after this trade?
So I think he's still a hold in 12-team leagues, just because he has that high upside. But I don't I wouldn't be starting him when Fox is playing in a 12-team league. It's just hard. He went from being arguably the second guy and the first guy when Wemby's out. He got a lot of shots up when Wemby was out, and now he's going to be the third guy, and he's never going to be the one guy on the team or on the court alone, right? Either Fox or Wemby's going to be on the court with him. So 12-team, I'm still holding him, but I'm probably not starting him moving forward.
He's got to take a hit. Mo Bamba already waved. Didn't see that. That adds to the joke of the beginning of the episode. Thank you, James. Thoughts on Spencer Dinwiddie? Again, another backfield in motion.
Yeah. So like I said, he was hot and cold before this trade. And then you get Max Christie, who is younger, a better defender, maybe a better shooter. So I don't necessarily say he's a must hold, but I'm not going to be dropping him for anyone, right? Like if I could pick up Collier for Dinwiddie right now, if that's doable, I would do that. But I'm probably not going to pick up like a Gabe Vincent over Spencer Dinwiddie.
Yeah. Isaiah Collier starting to find his shooting touch after some dismal shooting early in Utah.
Much better points league, but yes, for sure.
Yeah, much better points league. Whoops, that's not the one I wanted to get. Basic question, I guess we really didn't address for Matt. Does Anthony Davis's value go up or down with this deal?
So you kind of said it. If he plays the 4, his value takes a slight hit because you're more valuable as a center. We saw this phenomenon kind of really come to fruition last year with Wemby, right? He started the season at the 4, and then when he got switched to the 5, all of a sudden his rebounding numbers, his block numbers went out of control. AD isn't going to get as many blocks and he isn't going to get as many rebounds if he's guarding the other team's 4. If they play the Bulls, Anthony Davis is going to be guarding Ayo Dosunmu. You know what I mean? So yes, I think
that doesn't count because the Bulls don't have a power forward on the roster.
True. But my point remains. Like
he'll be further away from the basket, and there'll be another 7-footer.
And he'll be taking less efficient shots because AD wants to shoot those threes because he got the mismatch instead of having his dunks. So I think it's a slight decline, but I'm not like moving him out of like the top 20, right? Like he's still AD. He's still going to be a very productive fantasy player when he's on the court.
That's right. Better stash heading into the trade line. Moses Moody, Jared Vanderbilt, or Jaime Jaquez Jr.?
So I think in just because of what I said earlier, I have to go with Jared Vanderbilt, right? Like I said, he was going to be the biggest winner. So the Jaquez thing was weird. Last year, it sounded like he was like, I'm going to be the face of the Miami Heat in the next couple of years, right? Like he was like, Jimmy's molding me.
And he had and early in the trade stuff, he had a triple-double when Butler was suspended the first time. And then
not much.
Yeah.
And I think the
Warriors Khalil Ware's getting all the
Khalil Ware must add everywhere for right now. I think the Warriors are going to add players, not move players. So like Moses Moody's value is probably going to go down. Jaquez if his value was going to go up, it would be going up while Jimmy's suspended. It hasn't. So I'm just going to stick with Vanderbilt here.
All right. So total sidebar here. Why is Butler saying he won't re-sign with the Warriors? If Butler's so insistent on getting out of Miami, how many locations does he think are vying for him? Or is he just Phoenix or bust at this point? I'm so confused by him turning down the Warriors. And why wouldn't you want to play in Golden State?
Yes, I'm 100% on your side. I think that he is 100% Phoenix or bust right now. It seemed when the reports came out like, oh, the Heat are lowering their asking price. It was like, okay, the Warriors are going to pounce on that then, right? Because so I think he's just holding out for Phoenix. And when you're at that age and you're this disgruntled and you've forced your way off this many teams before, like you're not going to get a job, buddy.
Yeah, who's lining up? Like, you know what? I'd really like this guy to be a cancer on our team.
Yes, exactly.
That just was insanity to me. Jimmy, be quiet, Jimmy. Anyone who would want Lauri right now is bonkers. Oh, why are we dogging on Lauri Markkanen?
Tanking season, probably.
Okay. So you're saying fantasy. I'm thinking NBA. I'm thinking like, well, I would. Okay. Yeah. Sorry. I guess I read that the wrong way. Here's a Keegan Murray question from Chase. Does this make Keegan Murray droppable? Not a lot of shots to go. I mean, he wasn't getting many shots beforehand.
Yeah. I think probably I have him in like a keeper league that is pretty deep. He's overall, he's still a top 90 player in 9-cat leagues. So it depends. 10 teams, probably you can drop him. Anything
I don't see how his value changes though, because he wasn't getting any usage beforehand, and he's still not going to get much usage. But like if you're happy with his stats as is, you keep him because they're not going to change. He's living off the crumbs. And actually doing a much better job rebounding this year, over 7 rebounds a game. And I don't see Zach LaVine fighting him for rebounds.
I think that's a great point. I don't think his value changes, but if you were already disgruntled with him, you can probably drop him at this point.
There we go. All right. See any other questions here you're interested in, Kieran? Got more than I expected.
Yeah.
Okay, here's a trade question. Markkanen and Anthony for Bridges and Russell Westbrook. Is that trade crazy? Points league, which always helps Westbrook.
Russell has been fantastic recently. I don't think this is crazy. I think if you are the team getting McHale and Westbrook, you're doing it just because you're afraid of the tanking that the Jazz and the Portland might do.
I mean, Simon's been a roller coaster all year.
Exactly. Let's do I saw one about Buzelis, or maybe a couple about Buzelis.
Oh, your Bulls.
Yeah.
I can't lower it. Was that up or down? I don't know. I'm scrolling looking for that.
I just see this one right now.
Yeah, there we go.
I thought there was another one. Here, pick up Buzelis, Klingon, or Smith. So Klingon's probably still my number one stash right now, just because I think Portland, Ayton's gone, and his contract's so weird, so maybe not. Klingon's my number one. And then the other Buzelis question was now, yes, I'm adding Buzelis, especially in 14-team leagues that I can. He's had a couple games in a row where the scoring has been there. His defense is fantastic. That's always there. If it's a category league, the shooting percentages, the free throw percentages, that's going to be a tough thing to solve.
Aren't you giving away Patrick Williams for a bag of balls now? You're regretting that you re-signed him. I can't believe that happened. But your season's done. Why? I'd be force feeding minutes to Buzelis just to see what you have there, just for him to learn. And he's gonna, as long as you don't crush his confidence, just see what he can do. Yeah. Give him the minutes.
And you're starting to see that the last 4 games, over 20 minutes, 26 the last 2. So he's right on the verge, and so you might as well go out and get him now before the trade deadline ruins everything.
Right, and the Zach Collins arrival messes up the whole Jalen Smith stash strategy, which I was doing in a few leagues, unfortunately. Here's a question. Drop Vassell or CP3? I would probably lean to CP3. Right?
Yeah, absolutely here. Like I said, I think Vassell is still going to get I think that might be Vassell, Emmanuel Quigley, or CP3 too, but maybe not. I'm still dropping CP3. I think Vassell is still going to play. He just won't have as much usage. And with CP3 playing 25, 24 minutes a game, there's just not going to be enough value there.
Yeah. Yeah. All right. Well, I think that does it for our fan questions. And I think that does it for most of our pod. Kieran, it's a pleasure filling in for Alex and Nick with you today.
Yeah, absolutely. Had a pleasure. Hope we can do it again soon. Thank you for all the viewers joining us today on the RotoWire Fantasy Basketball podcast. Remember that you can get a RotoWire free trial at rotowire.com/pod. rotowire.com/pod. You see it down there below where Ken is pointing. Ken, take us out of here with one of your quotes.
Okay, let's go to Miami, where Stu Gatz for the Dan Lebatard show captured, I thought, the trade news quite well on Saturday night when he tweeted, quote, "I've always said, if you're worried about one player's conditioning, trade for the much older superstar that's always injured." End quote. How apropos, Stu Gatz. Thank you. Attention passengers. This two-car fantasy train wreck has hit the end of the line.